Hello guys, hope you're doing fantastic. Today we are going to do something interesting. We are going to investigate a murder and untangle the mystery of death of a wealthy novelist named Harlan Thrombey. Yes, I'm talking about a movie, Knives Out, which was released in 2019 and directed by Rian Johnson. And in the same month of release, its sequel has also been announced. Knives Out is an amazing mystery and compelling movie, and it was even nominated for Oscar for Best Screenplay. So the story begins, and in the initial few seconds itself, we have a death of Mr. Harlan, who was rich as he was a best-selling mystery novelist. As an immediate family, everybody becomes a suspect of such unexpected death. This all began on one special occasion, and it was 85th birthday night of Mr. Harlan. He had invited his family members for a celebration, and in that party, a lot of things happened with almost everybody in this family. Mysteriously, next morning, caretaker Fran finds Mr. Harlan dead and his throat was slit. Obviously, police gets involved in this investigation and they conclude Mr. Harlan had committed suicide. Mystery continues as someone hired a private investigator named Benoit Blanc, who was very famous for his investigative skills. Even Benoit didn't know who hired him, but he thinks someone had gone through so much of a trouble of hiring a private investigator, handed him a bundle of cash through an envelope and remained anonymous. So Benoit suspects a foul play in this suicide and he begins this incredible investigation. Very first conversation with the family members indicates to Benoit that everyone can lie. During this interrogation, everyone was walking Benoit through what had happened in their own version. So the story was like this. Harlan was a rich novelist and he had 2 sons and a daughter. His daughter Linda had her real estate business which she had established by her own efforts. But Linda had taken a loan of $1 million from Harlan to run this business. Her husband was Richard and Linda never considered him as an equal in their relationship, but even though he was helping her in her business. They had a son, Hugh Ransom, and he was a spoiled child. Next was Walter. He was the CEO of the publishing company Blood Like Wine of Harlan, and it was a big success because he had published several novels with almost 80 million copies sold worldwide in 30 different languages. Walter wanted to sell book rights to movie makers because that's where the real money was, but Harlan wanted to maintain the originality of his books. Harlan always wanted Walt to do something on his own instead of publishing others' work, but to create his own identity, which he will be proud of. He also had a 16-year-old son named Jacob. Harlan's last son was already dead, but his daughter-in-law, Joni, was living with them and she was a public influencer and was running a company of lifestyle and skincare products. She had a daughter, Meg, who was in college. Harlan was paying Meg's college fee every year, but Joni was really very clever and she was stealing from Harlan $100,000 a year in the name of Meg's tuition fees. And when that event comes into the light, Harlan stops paying the fees of Meg, but it was for their own good. So far, you all must have come to the knowledge that everyone in this family was obsessed with money of their father and they wanted everything ready in their plate without putting their own efforts in earning anything. Now let me walk you through what actually had happened on that birthday night. Richard was having an affair outside his marriage and Harlan was commanding him to come clean to his daughter Linda. But Richard was not ready to come forward and that's why they had a word. Harlan had found Joni stealing from him the same night and that's why Joni was also upset. Because of some unknown reason at the time, Ransom also had a huge fight with Harlan and Ransom then leaves the party in between. In the same night, Walter also had a word with Harlan because he wanted to sell rights to movie makers for more money and Harlan wanted to maintain the originality of his novels, so he fired Walter from his company. So at that night, Harlan had confronted everybody and had given reason to everybody to kill him, but Harlan always wanted best for everybody. We still have to look for caretaker Fran and Harlan's nurse Marta. Marta was a great and genuine girl. She was a good nurse and a good person. She was taking very good care of Harlan. Let's come back to the present day where Benoit was interrogating Marta, and here we viewers come to find out how exactly Harlan died. Fact of the matter is, after the party, Marta took Harlan to his room as it was his medication time. Both of them were playing some game and Harlan knocked the game down as he was losing to Marta. After that, Marta gave Harlan his medication and soon she found out that she had made a mistake and had given Harlan overdose of morphine which left Harlan only 10 minutes and soon he is going to die. Marta tries to find the antidote which could nullify the morphine effect, but she couldn't find it. As a mature man, Harlan accepts the fact that he is going to die. Even so, his work here is not done. He had to take Marta out of this mess before he goes because Marta was a kind-hearted and innocent girl. As a mystery novelist himself, he builds a story to take Marta from suspect number 1 to an impossibility. So the build story by Harlan was like this. First, Marta will go home and she will be as noisy as possible to be noticed by someone. As a usual habit, Walter would be smoking outside home and he will notice Marta leave. Marta also had to make sure Walter knows the time of her departure, which was midnight. After some time, she had to come back from backside of the mansion and enter through a secret window into Harlan's room. She would now wear robe and cap of Harlan and come down so that Walter would see her and mistakes her for Harlan through glazed window. Here, one witness was born who had seen Harlan alive even after Marta had left, which will clear the name of Marta because Harlan now would slit his own throat and commit suicide to save Marta from being convicted for his murder. So this was the story built by Harlan to save innocent Marta. But Benoit now was interrogating Marta, and there is one interesting detail we learn here, that Marta can't lie. If she does, then that makes her puke, which will expose her lie. But Harlan had found solution for this problem as well. He told Marta not to lie, but to tell the fragments of the truth in the exact order the events happened. But innocence and committed crime cannot be left hidden for a long time. Marta tried to confess several times about her doings, but she had responsibilities of her mother and sister which made her stubborn to swallow the truth. Benoit learns that Marta was the only person who wouldn't be benefited by Harlan's death. So to get insights of the family, he involves Marta into his investigation. The proof Benoit gets, Marta really tries to get rid of them. But one detail comes forward, that someone had climbed through the secret window into Harlan's room, which was the same window used by Marta. Couple of days later, big day comes, and it was a day where will be read, where properties of Harlan will be distributed to his children. Now guys, be prepared to be amazed because each and every cent of Harlan's property had been given to Marta by Harlan. Harlan had rephrased his will 1 week before his 85th birthday to Marta. When family comes to find that out, they were astonished and angry on Marta, but Ransom helps Marta flee the scene. Ransom takes her to a cafe where he asks exactly what had happened, and he clarifies that he knew about her puking problem. Panicked Marta confesses to Ransom and tells him everything that happened, everything about her mistake of switching medicines and about Harlan's plan to commit suicide. Here, Ransom clarifies that Marta will be exposed when blood reports will be shown to Benoit and she will go to jail eventually, but here is a catch. Ransom convinces Marta to take help from him out of this situation, and in return, Marta will have to give back his share to Ransom. Panicked and helpless Marta accepts help from him. The very next day, Walter visits Marta and threatens to expose her family's illegal immigration status if Marta doesn't give the property back to them. Meanwhile, Marta notices one letter that she had received. It was a photocopy of blood test report of Harlan, and sender of that letter had written on that, "I know what you did." Scared, Marta goes directly to Ransom. Ransom suggests she should destroy the original blood test report from the medical office. So they drive to medical office but finds that someone had set fire on this medical office and it was burned to the crisp. Ransom and Marta were trying to find the meaning of sending the photocopy of blood report, and Marta finds out that she had received a mail of an address where the sender of that letter had asked her to meet. But they could not save themselves from Benoit's sight. Ransom and Marta tries to run away from the situation, but Benoit catches them. Surprisingly, police arrest Ransom instead of Marta. This whole non-understanding matter was too much for Marta. Benoit tells Marta that mother of Harlan had spotted Ransom getting down from the window on the birthday night. It means along with Marta, Ransom also had climbed the window and got into Harlan's room for some reason. Now, Detective Benoit and Marta both were onto the police station, but Marta had to meet the blackmailer on around the same time, and that's why she requests Detective a pull over and went to meet blackmailer. But there, she strangely finds caretaker Fran. Yes guys, the blackmailer was caretaker Fran. It also means that somehow Fran had found out that the medicines were switched. But Fran was not in a good shape, and she finds out that she had been injected by morphine and she was about to die. She had an envelope, but there was no report. Marta knew if she saves Fran, then that could expose Marta and she will be arrested for the same. But kind-hearted Marta couldn't see her die, and she dials 911 and helps Fran to the hospital. Arrested Ransom tells police everything about Marta's mistake and the blackmailer. Here we come to find out that Marta's secret was out. But Marta still didn't have the original blood report. Fran must have hid it somewhere safe. But suddenly Marta remembers the secret place where Fran had her stash hidden. Marta checks that place and finds out about the report, and then she hands it over to the detective without even reading it. Guys, Marta was really feeling guilty, and that's why she decides to confess everything in front of the family and come clean. But suddenly, Detective Bernard stops her from confessing, and he gets every family member out of the house. He grabs Marta and police grabs Ransom in one room, where Detective Bernard reveals who the real killer of Mr. Harlan is. In a nutshell, the real killer is Ransom, and Detective Bernard then reveals how exactly Ransom planned all of this to frame Marta and get rid of Harlan. Now this is what actually happened. At the night of the birthday, Ransom and Harlan had a fight because Harlan had told Ransom about his will. Harlan had given everything to Marta and Ransom was not happy about it. Angry, Ransom leaves the party in between after warning Harlan. But on the way, he makes a plan to frame Marta somehow. So before party was over, Ransom comes back through the secret window and he interchanges the medicines. So if Marta gives Harlan the medicine according to the label, she would give Harlan an overdose of morphine, which is very dangerous, and within 10 minutes, game of Harlan would be over. He also hides antidote for the morphine overdose just to be sure. It was a simple but genius plan because according to the Slayer rule, if Marta found responsible for Harlan's death, even unintentionally, then Slayer rule will nullify the changed will and Ransom and all of the family members will get their share back. But one slight change happens in the decided events, and Marta doesn't read the label before giving medicines because she had done this hundreds of times before, and she just knows that this would be the right medicine according to its texture and viscosity of it. So she actually gives correct medication to Harlan, which was proved by medical report as well. Which also means if Harlan had listened to Marta that night and called an ambulance, then he would be still alive. But as they didn't know about this, Harlan made the plan to save Marta, according to which Marta acted. And according to the same plan, Harlan commits suicide. Next day, Ransom comes to know about the suicide that Harlan had committed. He panics because as it was a suicide, Marta will get everything. So Ransom had to prove Marta guilty. First of all, he hired Detective Benoit anonymously because Ransom wanted to highlight the mistake made by Marta. Secondly, on the funeral day, when house would be empty, Ransom comes home and he reinstates the bottle correctly to ensure nobody suspects that someone is trying to frame Marta. During all this, Fran catches Ransom doing this shady work when she suspects foul play. After that, Fran sends a photocopy of medical report of Harlan saying, "I know what you did." The same report Ransom then sends to Marta by turning it in half. The day when Ransom had listened to Marta's confession, he comes to realize that Marta hadn't made any mistake and she will be proven innocent and the will stand and Ransom won't get anything. So he sets fire to the medical office to destroy the evidence which could prove Marta innocent. But Fran still had one extra copy of the blood report which she uses to blackmail Ransom. But Ransom was far more dangerous than that and he overdosed Fran with morphine so that she would die as well. He told Marta to come at the same place so that murder of Fran would be on Marta's neck. At least that's what police will think. But kind-hearted Marta couldn't let Fran die like that and she calls 911 to get an ambulance, even if that was dangerous for her because Fran could expose her. This is exactly what had been orchestrated by Ransom and Marta was just playing his game in her own way. Benoit came to find everything out when that old mother of Harlan had caught Ransom getting down from the secret window, which meant Ransom was the one who had gone to Harlan's room for this shady work. In addition to that, Jacob was listening unintentionally about the conversation between Harlan and Ransom, which was about Will and Marta and a threat from Ransom. This all clarifies that the killer was Ransom. But all of these things were complete speculation and there was no way of proving it. If Fran had died, then Ransom could have been convicted for her murder. But Marta gets a call from hospital about Fran and Marta tells everyone that Fran is okay. So, Ransom takes a stand and says that he will be freed because he hasn't murdered anyone. Police did not have proof about him killing Fran or Harlan. Whatever case they are going to make, he will walk away with some sort of technicality and unknowingly confesses to his sinful actions which police were recording. After only few seconds, Marta vomits on Ransom's face, which proves that she was lying about Fran being alive. And now, Ransom could be arrested for killing Fran. This is how Ransom comes to find out that his game is over and police then arrests him and movie ends here. So this was the story of Knives Out. Hope you like it and I recommend you to watch the movie as well because you will enjoy it. Tell me how do you like this explanation as well in the comment section and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.